Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we're stripping away the myths and all that complex financial jargon to look at the true physical mechanics of money. Specifically, we're diving into Chapter 2 of our source material to explore the anatomy of gold and, the absolute physical laws that allowed this one specific metal to just completely dominate human trade for millennia. Let's dive right in. So, I want to take you back to a very specific year, 1324. In this year, the richest man who ever lived went on a journey, and he essentially broke a region's monetary system, kind of completely by accident. I'm talking about Mansa Musa, the emperor of Mali. He set out on this pilgrimage to Mecca with a caravan that was absolutely staggering. We're talking tens of thousands of attendants and endless camel trains loaded down with pure gold. And honestly, this is just a brilliant illustration of the core rule of money. When Mansa Musa passed through Cairo, he spent and gave away his gold so lavishly that its value in the city literally collapsed. Egyptian writers recorded that gold prices in Cairo stayed depressed for more than a decade. He was basically a walking, controlled economic experiment. He proved that even gold obeys the fundamental law of economics. If you suddenly flood the market with a massive supply of money, its value falls. It causes inflation. So, to really understand how gold works, here's our roadmap for today. We'll wrap up the Mansa Musa experiment, explore the scarcity principle, see exactly why gold is built to survive time, look at why it's universal and independent, tackle the cost of no yield, and finally, look at gold as monetary memory. Okay, Section 1, the Mansa Musa experiment, a pretty wild historical anomaly. Moving on to Section 2, the scarcity principle, nature's ultimate constraint. Now, the reason Mansa Musa's inflation wave was such an anomaly is simply that nature usually prevents it. Consider this stubbornly small number, 1 to 2%. Unlike paper currency, which, let's face it, can be printed by the trillions on a whim, gold's supply is governed by a cold, hard geological constraint. The global stock of above-ground gold grows incredibly slowly, historically hovering right at just 1 to 2% per year. The Earth simply doesn't give it up easily, and that imposes a discipline no political committee could ever alter. Which brings us to Section 3, Built to Survive Time, Bridging Generations. You see, effective money has to do a lot more than just work for today's grocery run. It literally has to bridge time. And this brings us to a really remarkable chemical reality. Gold does not corrode, it doesn't rust, and it doesn't decay. A gold coin minted by the Romans 2,000 years ago, it retains its exact physical integrity today. Contrast that absolute permanence with perishable goods like grain that spoils, iron that rusts, or fiat paper currencies that inevitably leak their purchasing power over time.
But here's the thing, durability isn't enough on its own. Money also has to be divisible. If we were bartering and you tried to divide a cow in half to make change, well, you don't exactly get two smaller cows, do you? You get a completely ruined asset. Even dividing a large diamond destroys a massive amount of its value. But dividing gold? It perfectly preserves its value. You can melt it down into tiny standardized coins and you won't destroy a single bit of its worth.
All right, Section 4, Universal and Independent, moving beyond politics. Once you have a scarce and durable material, some really incredible geopolitical attributes start to emerge. First off, gold is perfectly fungible, meaning an ounce in Tokyo is completely interchangeable with an ounce in New York. Second, it's extremely dense in value, which makes it highly portable. Third, its unique density makes it ridiculously costly to counterfeit. But most importantly, it is completely independent. Gold carries no national signature, and it functions entirely free of any government decree. Now, I want to pause here for just a second. I want to ask you a pretty critical question. Why does a lack of yield actually matter? In our modern financial world, we're totally obsessed with growth, dividends, and interest rates. So when critics look at gold just sitting inertly in a vault paying 0% interest, they see this massive flaw. Let's unpack that in Section 5, the cost of no yield, the idea of opportunity cost. Because gold doesn't produce income or compound over time, critics love to argue it's just a dead asset compared to a thriving business. But honestly, comparing gold to a stock is a total category error. Productive capital yields income, sure, but it carries counterparty risk. You are entirely relying on a business to succeed or a debtor to actually pay you back. Gold, on the other hand, is monetary insurance. Its lack of yield is a feature, not a bug, because giving up yield frees you from counterparty risk. It preserves your wealth without relying on anyone else's promise. And finally, Section 6, Gold as Monetary Memory, the benchmark of trust. So, we've seen how these physical properties made gold the ultimate money, but what exactly is its role in today's highly digital world? By the way, this explainer was inspired by the book, Gold, a story about money, wealth, and the architecture of value. Link in description. The author makes this brilliant point that gold serves as a kind of institutional memory. When fiat systems are operating smoothly, sure, gold fades into the background. But the moment governments start printing money too fast, gold reliably reasserts itself to remind us what money actually has to be. And that brings us to this absolutely powerful final takeaway. Gold does not dictate the rules, but it still keeps the score. It no longer acts as our day-to-day money, but its physical laws remain totally unbroken. It just sits quietly as a benchmark against which all modern currencies are judged. If a government debases its currency, gold's price reflects that exact failure of trust. I want to leave you with that thought today. What is the score of our current monetary system, and how are you protecting your wealth? Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I'll see you in the next explainer.